This is an introduction to Michael Doughman, who I love very much, and I don't need any help, but I sure had some nice things to say about him. We believe in the art of equality. Visibility, one moment, visibility leads to, one moment, because this is all about, visibility leads to awareness, and awareness leads to equality. There we go. Visibility leads to awareness, and awareness leads to equality. And Michael is a perfect example of that. He has worked in the past with great art, razor-sharp focus, a great attention to detail, and he's brought about things that have affected us in the past, but they affect us today and they will in the future. And here at the Dallas Way, we try to bring history to life. History is today, and you'll see why. We love who I like to refer to as the mayor of the Crossroads, Mr. Michael Doughman.
Good evening. Yes, I know you're all sitting out there saying, oh my God, it's her again. What can she possibly have left to say? Oh, yeah, but not that I can do publicly. I have been censored before, but tonight I want to talk about a unique, probably a unique project and a piece of what is becoming Dallas history, and we hope will continue to be a part of our history, is the introduction of the International LGBT Press Tour to the city of Dallas. When I first started to work at the Dallas CVB, Dave Whitney was the president and CEO, and a very forward-thinking man. And in early 1991 or 92, when I started reading, the first report I read was in U.S. News and World Report about this new market that was emerging, and that they referred to them as dinks. That was dual income, no kids. Well, that was back then, but they started evaluating them because they spent more when they traveled. They tended to stay in better hotels. They ate in better restaurants, and the value, the tourism value, which all states sort of have a formula that they put together that shows what the value of a tourist per day is in your city. The LGBT market, or this new DINK market as they called it, was almost double. And that was everything from vacations to shopping and everything else that they did. So after reading that, I'm thinking, well, you know, we probably need to get on board with this. And I do work for the CVB. Tourism is our business. You know, now all I got to do is sell this to the Dallas CVB in 1992. Dave Whitney was right on board, very excited about the whole thing. Problem was we had a very limited budget, so we weren't really sure what we could do. Whatever we did, we had to make every dollar count in order to make it a success. Well, before we could make it come to fruition, the city council decided in their eminent wisdom that the CVB should not be entertaining potential conference or convention groups at gentlemen's clubs or on golf courses. I'm sure a lot of you remember that big scandal. And unfortunately, we lost Dave Whitney and Dick Martinez and several other very valuable people at the CVB. So I wasn't really sure what was happening then. They just put everything on hold. Philip Jones came on the scene and was very amenable to marketing to the LGBT market. He'd come from Louisiana and was very familiar with the value of the LGBT market. So he said that we should go ahead and proceed. So the first thing we suggested was, well, we need to put something on our website. Websites were just now becoming a really big deal, and that's how you found out about things. Well, there was about 3 months worth of panic from the board of directors on what were we going to call it. Well, we can't use the word gay. Absolutely not. We'll scare everybody away. So after much deliberation and the support of one of our, at that time, board members at the Dallas CBV, Chris Luna, we convinced them that we could be the diversity market, which gave them great cover because then they could bring in the Hispanic and the African American and the Asian people and lump us all into one big pile and call us diverse. I tried explaining to them, I said, the only difference is that my community is Hispanic and African American and Asian, as well as Caucasian. I said, so we're in all of your markets, but, you know, baby steps. At least we're moving forward. So they put it together, a diversity page, one lonely page on the CBB website. It was painfully inadequate as far as information. I don't know anyone going to it would have been able to find out anything, including what hotel to go to, where to stay, where the gay market was, where the nightlife was, or anything else. But we were moving slowly forward, and the next step was, well, what do we do now? We need to hire somebody dedicated to the LGBT market. Yay, great idea. I would be glad to sit in on the interviews to see the depth of their knowledge. I mean, I want somebody that knows the numbers, you know, and knows the demographics and knows all this information. And so one day I get an email from the boss, well, the whole agency did, saying we've hired a new diversity staff member and she'll be in charge of our diversity market. And please come at lunchtime and meet our new diversity market person, Veronica Torres, who was a Hispanic heterosexual woman who also knew nothing about the gay market. Zip. So without officially hiring me, because I already had a job as the art director there, they thought it'd be a really good idea if I brought her up to speed, because by this point, I'd already collected like 4 3-ring binders about 4 inches thick on studies and surveys and research, and we were nowhere to be found in any of those except the bad categories. We were once listed as one of the 5 worst places to visit in the United States by one tourism group. The LGBT group, the staff writer that wrote for whatever the publication was for LGBT marketing said that, remember, if you go to Dallas, that's where they killed the president. Well, now we're talking about a real uphill climb here because, you know, how do you defend that? You know, and I'd been involved with IGLTA for some time, and it's not bad enough what the regional and the national perception of us was. Internationally, it was abhorrent. I talked to German writers who said I wouldn't dream of coming to Dallas for a press trip. I'd fear for my life. So we had to fix that. That was really just, that was just unacceptable. So I suggested that we start going to some of the conferences, specifically IGLTA and CMI every year. And so Veronica and I packed up and went, and on the flight, she said, now, here's the plan. When they ask statistical questions, you will answer. And I said, and what questions will you answer? She said, fashion. And pretty much that was it. I mean, I will give Veronica credit. She was extremely popular with the gay men. She was like the ultimate fag hag. She's a beautiful, beautiful woman. Very glamorous, wears amazing clothes, very stylish. So she was doing very well. But she was willing, and did in the months to pass, learn the market and learn the numbers and learn to speak intelligently. So we're trooping around the country, and at one IGLTA breakfast in about 1990, maybe 2000 maybe, a gentleman named Matt Scalarud, who is the undeniable guru of LGBT marketing in the country, in the world, literally, came over and sat down at our table, and he said, "I'd like to talk to you since you are now an emerging market." Well, he might as well have kissed me. I mean, I'm an emerging market. I just finished reading that this is where they kill the president. But he had a better vision for that. He said, "You need a marketing strategy." He said, "When you come to these conferences," he said, "there are big trade shows, there are big events." He said, "You need a marketing strategy." He said, "Dallas." He said, "Now, I know Dallas is not just cowboys and cowboy hats and cowgirls and fringe, but," he said, "that's the fantasy that everybody sees. And when they think of Dallas, they think of cowboys and country and western music and barbecue and all of those things." He said, "Feed the stereotype, absolutely." He said, "Do you have any cute guys in Dallas?" I said, "Oh, plenty." He said, "I think you should get a couple that are intelligent as well as attractive and create some sort of ambassadors and bring them to the trade shows, you know, dress them all up in their Western cowboy gear and everything. People will love that. It'll be an attraction." So I came back, and before the next IGLTA, I spoke to Gary and Alan here at the Round Up Saloon, and I said, "We're going to have a hot cowboy contest." And we did. And somewhere there's a ring of honor somewhere in this building of all the former hot cowboys we had. But it was a tremendous success. And it was a tremendous success simply because the boys that were chosen were not only beautiful and looked great with their shirts off, but they were smart. They had, if we gave them little handouts to learn, said, "You need to know this stuff." I'd been to IGLTA trade shows before and talked to like Long Beach, and they would have some guy in a lifeguard outfit. But if you asked him what the LGBT population of Long Beach was, he would be, So, you know, they weren't fitting the whole mold. But we got people that were qualified and were smart and could speak intelligently about our city. And it started picking up steam, and all of a sudden now when I would get, before I would even register, I'd get an email from Tom Ross or from Tom Nibio or somebody from IGLT. "Are the Cowboys coming? Are the Cowboys coming?" Well, sure, the Cowboys are coming. Absolutely. We'll be there with bells on. So that was a good start. But meanwhile, back at home, when you're only going to 2 conferences a year, you know, that's a lot of time left in between. We go back to the table and say, "Well, what's the next step?" Well, how about an ad campaign? Well, I'd already talked to Matt, and with our budget, it's ridiculous. You don't take 1 or 2 or 3 full-page ads in relative publications, whether it's Instinct or Out or whatever, a year and expect to have any impact. You have to have a constant presence, which is expensive. My argument to that also was an ad is an ad. No gay person, male, female, transgender, whatever, is going to open that magazine and learn anything except saying, "Oh, this is a paid ad." We need a real testimony. And I said, I think the answer is travel writers. Travel writers are very well trusted. Their readers trust them implicitly. If they're going someplace new they've never been, they will travel on their recommendations. They'll stay where they recommend. They will eat where they recommend. And they will party where they recommend. So, yay, we'll do a press trip. And we will let them absolutely come and make up their own minds about Dallas and what they think of it. I said, I have every confidence that we will be successful. We have a great city here and a lot. We just need to get them here because right now, you know, we're in bush country and they're not a-coming. So then came the problem of budget again. Well, this budget apparently is shrinking rapidly because all I was asking for was $5,000 from the CVB. We don't have that. so we're going to hold up this whole press trip and this opportunity. I'd already met lots of great travel writers, highly qualified, with huge followings at IGLTA trade shows that I could have probably talked to, but now we're going to, so I said, stupid me, what if I find the money? Oh, yeah, we're on board. Well, of course you're on board. It's free. And you get your logo stuck on it. But we found the money. And we found the hotels, and we found the restaurants, and we obviously found all the nightclubs. And we put together a very organized and very qualified press tour. And the first 2 or 3 years, there were always 2 or 3 writers who were like, Dallas? Really? I don't know. And a lot of the articles that they wrote afterwards would start out with, I'm on a plane on my way to Dallas. What the hell am I doing? But it never failed. We never once influenced a writer, instructed them to write about anything specific. You come, have the experience, and you tell your readers, in all honesty, would you recommend they come to the city to visit? We're still on no surveys, by the way, at this point. We're still struggling to get there. But by the 6th or 7th press tour, I didn't have to call travel writers. They were calling me, saying, I've heard the Dallas press trip is amazing. Can I come this year? All of a sudden, we expanded from North America and Mexico into Germany, the UK, Spain, France, Sweden. We had travel and from South America, Sao Paulo, we had from Brazil, from Argentina, travel writers wanting to come here, and that's when it evolved into, with the help of our good friends at American Airlines, an international press trip. We got more press in the next 3 or 4 years. Then all of a sudden, we started showing up, and more information, and more mention of Dallas. And we were actually overcoming that big red flag that hangs over some people's minds about our city. And a lot of people were using the connotation of the big blue dot in the middle of the big red state, you know, which was great for us. We were nowhere to be found today, even now, although we've been 2 years now without a press trip, but even today, we are one of the top 5 cities in the nation for same-sex couples to marry and have children. We have consistently, for the last 4 years, had the best LGBT nightlife in the nation, and that's above San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, any of them. The key was all of the travel writers, I gave them a survey at the end and asked them to fill it out and just send it back to me. Without a person to a name, everyone said the #1 reason to come to Dallas was the people. And you can build buildings, and you can build theme parks, and you can have lakes and oceans, but if you don't have the people and you don't have the hospitality in your city, and that was first and foremost in everybody's mind, and it's still there today. And we've had some struggles the last couple of years. We lost American Airlines as a partner because the new executive level of officers mainly come from U.S. Air, and they're much more conservative with their spending. However, they have been revisiting, and I have been talking with Jacques Lee and some of the folks at American, and they're considering the fact that it may have been a mistake to just completely drop all of their LGBT marketing, because in their records, even though the American was in the red, one of their most successful partnerships was this Dallas LGBT Press Trip, because it was international. And people wrote about their business class flights and about Terminal D and all the amazing things that were going on here. So we're starting dialogue. I'm hopeful, keeping my fingers crossed. The other thing that has changed is that the CVB is now back approaching us again to be more involved. They're actually going to be at our Pride Festival this year on their own, not piggybacking on 2 or 3 other organizations, but they're going to have their own representation and their own space. They're going to LA Pride next month, and they're going to have a booth, and they're raffling off a trip for 2 to Dallas for Dallas Pride, which we're going to help them host. So we're getting back in the swing of things. I think it's very important that we not discontinue the press trip, because Amsterdam did that. They established themselves as like the premier LGBT destination in the world. And then once they were established, they just quit marketing and quit promoting and quit doing things. And now they stand about 20th in the world. So, I mean, this can happen, you know, and there's, with all this going on, and some of our delightful political figures who step on their tongues every time they open their mouths, you know, we need some sort of defense. But, you know, real people from other walks of life and from other cities and from other countries need to continue to come here, because so much is changing all the time. I can bring back travel writers that were here just 3 years ago and take them on a completely new tour because of all the things that have changed, all the things that have been revived, all of the new things that are going on, and the progress that we have made. So we're hopeful that maybe this next spring we will revive the press trip, and it will become, once again, a permanent part of our LGBT community, and we will retain the history of it. So if you know anybody, just in case American falls apart, if you know anybody in an airlines that might be interested in a partnership, it's a lot of great publicity, and we're always ready to listen. But the takeaway from this is that you never know where you're going to go when you start something. But, you know, it far surpassed any of our imaginations. The success of it was much greater than we had ever expected. We got premier travel writers. We are the only person, the only LGBT travel press trip to ever get Andrew Collins to go on an actual press trip. He strictly does food and wine on his own, writes for Bon Appetit, Southern Living. He came here 2 years ago and was on our last press trip and was so thoroughly delighted that he is now the head writer for Love Wins, the new wedding magazine out of Austin. And so he's officing out of Austin and actually living in Texas now. Doug Mayo, who is the premier theater and entertainment writer for London and the West End, is moving a company here this year to open a sister type of relationship for promoting Dallas to London, back to Dallas. So we haven't lost footing yet, so we want to pick it up. And all I ask of you is you just got to be yourselves, because the documentation says it all. The people of Dallas are the reason that people who come here once come back again. Thank you.
Michael, before you go, thank you very much for that. I especially appreciate when a guest speaker wears a blouse the same colors as our Pegasus. Thank you very much. Fashion. But I'm very interested in what you said about how quickly we can drop from the top to the bottom. You took us from the bottom of the list to the very top of the list. We have some very powerful people in this room. And would you tell us again, very specifically, what you would, again, dream big, right? And just tell us exactly what you want.
Oh, sure.
Sure.
Yeah. All we really need is transportation. It's the biggest, it's the turnkey to the whole piece. I can get the hotels on board, I can get the restaurants on board, I can get nightlife on board. We partner with Fort Worth and we go over there for a day and a half. They support us. And I have the funding for transportation. Everything else, all we really need is an airline that can help us fly those people here once a year for 5 days or 6 days. So airline is the key. If you have any connections anywhere, I'd appreciate, make a phone call. I'm easily accessible. Robert Emery can always tell you how to find me. If you have a lead, I'd be glad to meet someone anywhere. Well, not anywhere, but most any place anyway. I would be willing to come and meet with them and talk to them and show them the actual documentation of the years past, what we've accomplished and what is still out there for us to accomplish.
Great. The Executive Director of the Dallas Tavern Guild, Mr. Michael Doughman.